Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahabushai, Bahasham, Rakahakwadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahabushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure to the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in Isaiah chapter 19 verse 2. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians. And this isn't talking about ancient Egypt or Mizraim, who were Hamites or so-called Africans. This is talking about the modern-day spiritual Egyptians as pursuant to Revelation 11 verse 8, the United States of America, and these Edomite Americans, the Edomites known as these so-called white people today. But as it says, I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight, everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. Civil unrest, civil war, which civil unrest is coming to the United States of America, where chiefly these Edomites, but hey, these other nations of people in America calling themselves Americans are going to be going at each other's throats due to a multitude of factors. The economic collapse that is coming, food shortages, state of martial law, just pandemonium taking place. And you can already see that these Americans out here are fractured against each other over a whole host of issues, from sex, religion, politics, etc., etc. And eventually, the rubber's going to hit the road. All this talk you hear about, people taking matters into their own hands to take their country back is eventually going to go from throwing words to throwing lead. And that's what I'll be dealing with in this video. I've got two articles that I'm going to go into that show that, hey, we're getting closer and closer to these Americans, these Egyptians, getting physical out here. But the first article I'll be going to is on Newsweek.com, titled U.S. Breaking Apart with 25 States Ready to Leave, says Texas secessionist. And it was published on April 8th of 2024, the hopeful year of Jacob's trouble. And especially since this whole migrant border crisis has been taking place in Texas, you've been hearing more and more talks of Texas seceding from the Union. And as we'll see in this article, you've got other states like California that are talking about secession as well. And what's very interesting about that is that Civil War movie that's coming out this Friday, who are the two main states that kick off that Civil War? Texas and California. A little example of predictive programming out there. And then also you had that movie Bushwick that came out in 2017 that dealt with several southern states, seceding from the U.S. and attacking states in the north. And some of the two top states they mentioned was, again, Texas and California. Again, there will be civil unrest in the United States of America, and it's all through the will of Yahweh Bahasham Yahabushai, stated in these scriptures. But let's get into this article. A leading Texas independence campaigner has said the United States is breaking apart, with over 50% of the population in 25 states ready to secede, based on his interpretation of two recent surveys by the polling company YouGov. The claim was made by Daniel Miller, the president of the pro-independence Texas Nationalist Movement, in the most recent edition of his Texas News podcast. Questions about the integrity of the U.S. have increased in the face of fiercely partisan politics in Congress and the contested 2020 presidential election. In February 2023, House Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene sparked controversy after calling for a national divorce between the red states and blue states. Hold on a second. Oh. Yeah, yeah. I'm on the job right now, and one of the guys I know trying to talk to me, but the word comes first. Between February 2nd and 5th, YouGov asked 35,000 Americans whether they would support their state seceding from the Union and becoming an independent nation. The results varied considerably, from highs of 36% in Alaska, 31% in Texas, and 29% in California, to a low of 13% in Minnesota. Across the U.S., the survey found that 23% of Americans wanted their state to become independent, with 51% opposed and 27% unsure. Hey, those aren't some small numbers. And hey, these numbers are only going to increase as the average everyday American is waking up to the fact that their own government, their own politicians don't have their best interests at heart and have the best interests of these corporations and ultimately the elites, such as the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, at the forefront of everything that they vote on and push for. Miller argued that in the survey, support for independence was lower than it should be because polling companies have no idea how to poll the issue of secession or withdrawing from the Union. To support this argument, Miller referenced a separate YouGov survey conducted in February for the Independent California Institute. The survey of 500 Californian adults found that 58% believed Californians would be better off than they are now in a scenario where California peacefully becomes an independent country with a friendly relationship with the U.S. Miller said the question more accurately calculated support for secession, as it specified that it would be peaceful and focused on whether individuals thought they would personally be better off. That's it with this article. But as you can see, there's more and more calls from people in these different states for their states to secede from the Union. And while those last few paragraphs talked about a lot of Californians saying that they think it would be a peaceful secession, the scriptures say otherwise. When these Americans, specifically these American Edomites, go at each other, hey, it's going to be a no holds bar, every man for himself, dog eat dog, as it said back in Isaiah chapter 19, verse 2, and they shall fight, not talk, everyone against his brother and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom, point blank, period. And that's further going to be illustrated in this second article I'll be reading from on theguardian.com, titled, Many Americans Who Recently Bought Guns Open to Political Violence, Survey Finds. Study of 13,000 Americans finds particular risk among certain type of gun owners, including those who carry in public. And this was published on April 9th, 2024. Large numbers of Americans who have bought guns over the past 4 years or who regularly carry their loaded weapons in public are willing to engage in political violence, even to the extent of shooting a perceived opponent, a new mega survey has found. Hey, so much for everybody being on a peaceful secession kick. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 15 in the Apocrypha. I'm going to start at verse 14. Woe or destruction to the world and them that dwell therein, because we're quickly coming into the times of Jacob's trouble, when Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai is about to judge the people of this earth for all the wickedness they've been committing. Chiefly, you people in the United States of America. Hold on a second. He's not in there? Oh, this is my last one. Oh. Yeah, it's been a nightmare all day, especially with the, window messing up. Yeah.
Oh shit, is it doing by itself?
Yeah, it's got a demon on it.
Damn, Frank got that demon window, huh?
Yeah, yeah. But I think that might have been just him that pulled up in that white Jeep.
That other guy was in there too. Then another guy pulled up in
Oh, so you still got your load? You just
yeah, I
done?
got off
All right. Yeah, I'm about to.
right by that door. I was like, fuck, I'm waiting for this
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
motherfucker. Get out of here, man.
All right. Hey, be safe out there.
You too,
All
man.
right. All right. Yeah, Salaki about that. Speaking of, yeah, now the window on this truck ain't working, but shit, the show must go on. But again, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another with swords in their hands. And that one people standing up and fighting against another goes into many things. One race of people standing up and fighting against another, which we know there will be, racial skirmishes as pursuant to Matthew chapter 24, nation rising against nation. One political group standing up and fighting against each other, red versus blue, Republican versus Democrat, patriot versus a so-called traitor, class warfares with the rich and the poor, and, the average everyday citizen going against those in the government. And as it said, and fight against another, and swords in their hands. And the modern day sword, especially in the United States of America, is that gun. And what did we just read at the beginning of that article? A lot of gun owners are saying that they think that, using violence for political means is, acceptable and necessary. Verse 16, for there shall be sedition among men. And the definition for that word sedition is conduct or speech inciting open rebellion against a ruling authority or monarch, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. And your modern day kings and princes are those in the government, from the mayor, the senator, the governor, the president, as well as the authorities that uphold the system, like the police or the military. Hey, when it's a man and his family, a man and his compatriots' lives on the line out here, people ain't gonna give a damn about a badge or a military patch. And the course of their actions shall stand in their power, as it says in the book of Judges. Every man did what was right in his own eyes in that day. And it's going to be no different in these days of Jacob's trouble that we're coming into. But let's go back to that article. The study of almost 13,000 Americans drawn from across the U.S. and weighted for demographics provides alarming evidence of the openness of certain types of gun owners to the idea and possibly the practice of violence as a political act. Sedition among men. The risk of violent behavior rose dramatically, the researchers found, with certain subsets of gun owners, in particular Americans who have bought their weapons since the disruptions of the C-19 in 2020, and those who often or always carry guns in public expressed high levels of susceptibility to political violence. A similar though less marked trend was visible among owners of assault-type rifles of the sort used frequently in mass, kinetic events. We got to speak in codes because of YouTube's algorithms. The study, Firearm Ownership and Support for Political Violence in the United States, was conducted by the Violence Prevention Research Program at the University of California, Davis. Its findings will ring alarm bells at an already exceptionally tense time for the country. With 7 months to go to the presidential rematch between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And what did Donald Trump say recently? If he doesn't win, hey, there's going to be a bloodbath in this country. The U.S. is not only in the early stages of what promises to be a fiery election, but the prevalence of gun ownership as well as mass gun rampages are also running at all-time highs. A country awash with weapons and facing fraught political clash. which both sides are portraying as an existential fight for the future of America, poses extreme challenges for law enforcement. And while we know that voting doesn't matter, you only elect a president, you don't select a president. All these politicians and candidates are just puppets for the elites. The average person still believes in this two-party system. And what? You got a lot of people saying, whoever wins, if it's not our candidate, we're not going to, agree with the elections. Hey, they shall not regard their kings nor princes. Since Trump announced his candidacy in November 2022, he has taken his inflammatory rhetoric to a new level. He has recast his supporters who have been jailed for the violent attacks on the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021 as hostages and promised to pardon many of them. At the same time, gun purchases have soared since the start of the pandemic. Last year, the U.S. endured a record number of mass kinetic events. The authors of the study draw conclusions from their findings that will give federal and state officials pause. It is plausible, they say, that recent gun purchasers may be arming up for anticipated civil conflict. And the Egyptians shall rise against the Egyptians. Brother shall fight against brother, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. Our findings strongly suggest that large numbers of armed individuals who are at least potentially willing to engage in political violence are in public places across the U.S. every day. So that's it with that article. But as we can see, biblical prophecy continues to take place as we speak. And especially after this total solar eclipse that took place the other day, all these events are only going to ramp up. And I'm going to close it out in Matthew chapter 3, verses 24 to 25. And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And we can clearly see that the kingdom of the United States of America is divided on damn near every level you can be divided on. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. The race, the house, the nation of Esau, Edom is divided, not just amongst these Americans, but globally. These European Edomites are at friction with these American Edomites. These American and European Edomites are at friction with these Russian Edomites, etc., etc. And as it says, if a kingdom and a house be divided, it cannot stand and will fall. We are living in the twilight hours of the rulership of these Edomites before they're taken out of power and the rightful rulers of the planet are put back into power. The nation of Israel, consisting of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, beginning with the elect of the nation of Israel, and at the head of the elect of the nation of Israel, Yahweh wa Yahweh Shai. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.